Yo, what's going on, everyone? It's Brian and Jim here with Drink a Beer and Play a Game, and today we're checking out the Hulk Ultimate Destruction for the PS2.
Released in 2005, this came out for the PlayStation 2, the Xbox, and the GameCube. It was developed by RoccoW Entertainment and published by Sierra. This was a game that actually just barely missed my top 20 games list. I was blown away by it when it came out, but let's see if it's held up as well over 10 years later.
Graphically, considering the fact that this game came out for the Xbox and PS2 generation, it still holds up today. It's clearly not perfect, but let's first talk about the good. Hulk looks great, and especially those beautiful delts. The boss enemies at least look pretty good. His impacts on buildings when he leaves the little craters, his jump mechanics, everything looks really good. You have weather changing from time to time. However, there are some areas where we think they could have done a little better. For one, the camera. You're the Hulk. You're jumping from building to building, jumping all around. The camera can really quickly spin out of control. They did put the nice feature of auto-correcting behind the Hulk, which is nice, but still, it was just one little thing that made some of the challenge modes that you'll hear more about a little bit later a little annoying as you're running and moving faster with the Hulk. Also, since it is such a large city, it's really nice that there's no load time between where you run through the city, but so much of it looks exactly the same. Every so often you will have landmarks, but you're going to have to resort to your map quite frequently if you're trying to run around. Other than that though, like I said, to us, it still holds up. It didn't hinder the game at all, and unlike some other 3D World games, it still looks perfectly fine. So as far as score is concerned, we both gave it a 7. It's above average, but anyone who would probably give it more points than that probably just has nostalgia about this game. As far as beer, I'm only going to add 1, just for that camera getting a little wonky at times.
Alright, the sound package in this game overall is pretty good. The music in the game is perfectly fine. I'm not going to say it's anything special or crazy memorable, but it definitely fits the game it's going for. Unlike that goddamn funk music in the goddamn Hulk game on fucking Sega Genesis. Not that I'm bitter. But there's a lot of voice acting in the game, and it's really well done. The Hulk's done by the guy who did it in the 1996 animated TV series, and it's got Ron Perlman in it. And nothing Ron Perlman does is wrong. Ever. The sound effects are perfectly fine. Everything just really fits what you'd expect from a Hulk game, so we both gave it 7s. As far as beer goes, I'm just going to give it 1 beer for sweet-ass Ron Perlman.
What about the Mutant Chronicles?
Ron Perlman.
Let me be upfront about the control. Jim was the one who grew up playing this game and enjoyed a lot more.
Yep.
I spent a lot less time with it. So here's just my 2 cents. The control is absolutely fine. However, it is one of those games you need to invest time in. There are going to be a shit ton of combos and jump mechanics and this button comboed with this button to remember in this game. If you're willing to dump a lot of hours, it'll be very easy. But for someone like me who I'll play it for 3 hours, step away for maybe a week, come back and play it again, I found sometimes the running on the buildings, grabbing items, remembering, charge attacks, it took a little bit more than I would like to. And for a game that offers as much of it as it does, I felt like the majority of some of your bigger attacks didn't differ enough for me to have to remember a crazy combo chain. I can't stress enough, the action is actually really easy to deal with because you can lock onto your enemies, although sometimes, and you'll find it like most 3D games, you'll lock onto the wrong guy, but you can switch between them easily enough. Your basic button layouts just boil down to your strike, your charge strike, your dash, your jump, and your grab. As you learn more about the game, you'll find that the control can really suit you well, and the amount of crazy shit you can do as a Hulk is just impressive. Keeping all that in mind, when you see our scores, I gave it a 6, and Jim gave it a 7. I tend to give games that take a little bit too much effort to remember to control a little bit harder of a time, but by no means does it hinder your gameplay experience. As far as beer, I'm just going to add 1, and this is just for myself for not giving this game more time.
Alright, so the gameplay. Basically, this game is an open world game, sandboxy, where you can do whatever really the fuck you want. There is a main story mode, which takes a decent amount of time to get through, I gotta say. Lots of missions, lots of crazy boss fights, and if there's one thing I can say about this game, it's over the top. The explosions are big and gigantic. You can destroy goddamn near almost anything in the game, including giant skyscrapers, which is just awesome. Honestly, I had a ton of fun just running around blowing shit up. And it's kind of weird that in a game like Grand Theft Auto, I'll get bored of doing that, where in here I just could do it for hours and hours. Much like Grand Theft Auto also, there's a ton of unlockables and secrets in the game. So exploration is definitely a key. There's also many side missions and challenge missions, such as, getting the check markers in a certain amount of time, blowing certain things up in a certain amount of time, using your special move to do certain things in a certain amount of time, shit like that.
Jim, can I tell you my favorite challenge mode?
What's your favorite challenge mode, Brian?
When you use a pole and hit guys like a baseball out of a helicopter and see how far you can hit them. It's hilarious!
Oh god, I forgot about those. Yes, they are hilarious. So the Hulk has his normal attacks like Brian talked about, and he's also got these critical mass moves, which it almost slows down time and just gives off this giant roaring destruction, which is just so damn fun and satisfying. Overall though, there's a shitload of content and the game just stays fun and runs very smooth. It stays mostly at around 30 frames a second. Sure, there's some drops, but for a PS2 era game this big, it's pretty impressive to look at. So overall, Brian gave it a 6 and I gave it an 8. He kind of found it repetitive after a while, but this is the kind of game that I just latch onto and I don't really get bored with. When it comes to beers, I'll just add one beer for all the goddamn fun you can have with it.
As far as originality, like Jim mentioned, this is another open world game, but we gave it a few more points because it was one of the more unique open world games at the time. You had games like Spider-Man 2 and obviously Grand Theft Auto and plenty of other sandboxy open worlds, but to be the Hulk and do the level of destruction, we were pretty impressed. But really, other than that, even with all the unlockables and all the things, they didn't offer that much new, so we had to keep our scores at a 4. It was no longer the first Hulk game. He's been in other games since then, so we had to keep our scores fair. But as far as beer, I'm going to add 1, and it's a celebratory beer for a game that made itself stand out just enough in a sea of other open world games.
Alright, replayability. Well, we kind of already mentioned it. If there's one knock to it, there's really only one true ending to the story. But with all the content you have here, there's plenty to come back for again and again, and just learning to use all the different moves is fun as hell. Plus all those challenges. So, we gave it 5s. And as far as beer goes, you know what? I don't think you need any beer. There's enough for you to keep you busy. Alright, maybe 1 beer, since there is enough that you might get a little thirsty. Ow!
Puff. So overall, having not played the other Hulk games, we've seen most people agree this is probably the best Hulk game experience you're going to get. It offers exactly what you would want from the Hulk, just pure destruction. The ultimate destruction. Who's to say? Hey! See what I did there? Took the title, applied it. No, but in all reality, like Jim said, it's actually a fairly interesting story you have, and the level and the amount of unlockables and things to find and challenges, and not to mention you can unlock new skins for the Hulk. You can easily get 18 hours out of this game, which is pretty goddamn solid. It may not be for everyone, and for people like me, it got a little repetitive, but I still enjoyed the time I did spend with this game. So, if you're a big Hulk fan, we really recommend it. But let's just get to our scores. I gave it a 6, and Jim gave it a 7. When we round out all of our scores together, it rounds out to a 6.5. Don't be fooled, that is clearly above average, and its downfalls are really minor compared to the fun you can have just breaking shit up as the Hulk. When it comes to beer pairing, I'm going to have to go with the AleSmith Horny Devil. This is a Belgian strong ale, and it comes in at 10%. And I wouldn't want to suggest a beer any less strong than this because, let's face it, you are the Hulk. You're going to be destroying a whole bunch of shit, and you need a beer that can keep up with you. This is a really good option, but be warned, even 1 bottle of this might put you on your ass. So if you're going to be playing for a long time, take little sips at a time before you completely Hulk out. But remember to drink your beers and play your games responsibly. As always, guys, thanks for checking out this video, and if you enjoyed it, make sure you give us a thumbs up, leave some comments, or better yet, why not subscribe? Till next time, guys, cheers.